Today, we're going to look at essay writing again. The essay is, some people decide to live in another country. Is it a good idea to live in another country for a while? And you have to think about work, language, and another idea of your own. When we look at work, what kind of work do we mean? The work that you may find when you go to another country, let's say England or Germany, and many people travel abroad to find better work opportunities. So we could say here that they are looking for better work opportunities. The language. But you have to think about the language. If you go to another country where you don't speak the language, then perhaps it's not such a good idea. Let's say, for example, that you get a job in England, which will give you an opportunity to practice and improve your English, then that's fine. But if you get a job in China and you don't speak Chinese, that might be a problem, especially if you're required to be able to communicate in the language spoken in the country. So, let's move on. Remember that the introduction needs a general statement that kind of tells you what the general topic is about. That, for example, many people choose to move abroad for a number of reasons. The essay could be, here are the reasons. And you examine the reasons why they might want to move abroad. Or, here are the problems, and you only examine the problems. In this particular case, however, we have to give an opinion about whether or not it is a good idea. And when somebody asks you, is it a good idea, it means that you have to discuss the advantages and the disadvantages of moving to another country. You can't just only take one side of the issue. You have to look at the other side as well. And that's why this particular sentence here, living in a foreign country has a lot to offer. Nevertheless, it is not always an easy option, prepares the reader that they're going to read about what it has to offer, but at the same time, they're going to read about why it isn't such an easy option. Let's stay with each paragraph at a time. Look at this one here. What's this? This is called the semicolon. And if you look at it, it's something between a comma and a full stop. So it's something in between. And usually you put it where you don't want to put an end to the sentence because what follows is part of what you said before. So that's why we put the semicolon, then we can say, nevertheless, we put a comma, always. It is not always an easy option. The examiners will see that that particular student is capable of using punctuation. And it will count towards your ability to use punctuation, which counts in the marks that you get for organization, linking that part of the assessment criteria. Okay, now let's read the second paragraph. Probably the main reason why job seekers may try to find work in a richer country is that it may offer better job opportunities. For example, a doctor or an engineer who is unemployed in Greece will most probably look for work in Germany or France. In this way, they will be able to support their family or enjoy better working conditions. Let's take each sentence at a time because each sentence in the essay must play a particular role. In the first sentence, as you can see, you give the reason why people might decide to work abroad. But because we're not sure about anything, when we speak, when we write, we're not 100% sure. You have to show that uncertainty, that sort of probability aspect. Probably, you will say. Probably, the main reason why. And then look at the choice of vocabulary. Job seekers. So we don't mention people again. Find work in a richer country because it's another country. Well, usually, where will people most probably try to find work? Probably in a richer country. Having said that, it doesn't mean that they will not try their luck in developing countries which may offer better job opportunities, but let's not go into too much detail at this point. Look, offer better job opportunities. And again, this has to do with work. All this vocabulary, job seekers, offer better job opportunities, find work, the verb find, it's topic vocabulary. It's vocabulary that has to do with a particular topic that you are writing about. For example, when you give an example, you have to be specific. So when we're talking about work, the example has to be examples of actual work, like a doctor. Let me underline this. Or an engineer. Who is unemployed in Greece? Because again, you want to give a reason that sort of they are going for better job opportunities. It's not that they have a very successful job here and they say, okay, let's give it up and go somewhere else. Will most probably, and again, you show that you are not 100% sure about anything, will most probably look for work instead of find. Okay, so again, we have more vocabulary. And then you give, again, specific examples of countries. So in this particular case, when you give an example, first of all, you give the kind of work. And because the whole essay is about sort of moving to another country, living in another country, you give countries. So what role does this example play? In this way, they will be able to support their family. Okay, so we have support because of obviously financially support, or enjoy better working conditions. So I think, again, I'm not an examiner myself, but when an examiner looks at this paragraph, they will see, first of all, organization, that the first sentence, here it is, gives the reason why, followed by an example, followed by a result, a consequence. This is the organization. In the organization, they're going to see the full stops where they have to go. They're going to look at the dashes instead of sort of using commas here or brackets, because you're kind of adding this extra piece of information like a relative clause. You're just adding it, giving some more information about what kind of doctor, what kind of engineer, a doctor or engineer who is unemployed, not sort of running a very successful business in the country. So in this way, and here comes the result. What else will the examiner see? Language-wise, okay, nothing wrong with the grammar. They will see the relative clause. Modification will most probably, will be able, probably, may offer, and lots of topic vocabulary. Job seekers, find work, richer country, offer better job opportunities, doctor, engineer, unemployed, okay, that has to do with work as well. Again, another country, where are they unemployed? Look for work, support somebody's family, enjoy better working conditions. What is written here is relevant to the topic. Let's move on. On the other hand, I'll read the paragraph first. A problem is usually the language. If a young adult moves to France but does not speak French, then it will be very difficult to communicate. For instance, going shopping, ordering food in a restaurant, or talking to work colleagues will be a real problem. Having said that, however, with English being an international language, most people manage to communicate quite easily. Focused on the language being either a problem if you don't speak it, or not really being a problem because, the majority of people abroad can communicate in English. Let's look at the organization. On the other hand, a problem is usually the language. And then I take a specific example, France, and look at difficult to communicate. That's topic vocabulary. What do you use the language for? You use it to communicate. And then more specific examples. Going shopping. You communicate when you go shopping. Ordering food in a restaurant. You have to use language to do it. Talking to work colleagues. Again, you have to use language to do that. Having said that, however, so you look at the other side of the coin, on the one hand, on the other hand, with English being an international language, most people manage to communicate quite easily. Okay, and you might find, well, there isn't much topic vocabulary. Well, there is, because you have the examples, going shopping, because you have to use language, ordering food in a restaurant, talking to work colleagues instead of saying communicating with. The grammar is interesting as well. You have an adverb, two adverbs together quite easily, your infinitives, your gerunds. Okay, so in that sense, it's correct grammar. Another consideration is, again, that leads you to the next point, the third point, the new experiences that a country offers. So, okay, here is the experiences. That's the third point. By tasting a different cuisine or learning about new customs and traditions, people become more open-minded. Okay, so these are the experiences like learning about the customs, learning about the traditions. What is the result of that? Because with by, you kind of prepare the reader that they're going to read the result or the consequence. People become more open-minded. And now we come to the conclusion. All things considered, because you have to sum up, I tend to think that experiencing life abroad is a unique opportunity if communication is not a problem. Now, somebody who writes the same essay could write it with totally different ideas, perhaps better ideas, perhaps more vocabulary or more interesting grammar. That's not the point. The point is that whatever you write, you have to worry about things that you can control, not what other people can do. What can you do? Can you organize it well? Is it formally written? Because remember, this is a formal piece of writing. Do you see any contracted forms? No. Do you see any you, I, we, my brother, my sister? No. It's very formally written, very well organized. It has vocabulary. Nothing wrong with the grammar. Punctuation, because I have the semicolon up there. I have circled. I have the dashes. Full stops, commas, because if you have the subordinate clause at the end, you don't put a comma before it. You put a comma if you start the sentence with if, but not if the if appears in the middle of the sentence. Focus on the things that you can do, focus on the things that you can control, and make sure that with whatever you write, it doesn't matter if it is simple language or complicated, difficult vocabulary or easy vocabulary, make sure that you control it, that you don't translate from your native language. Try to think in English, and everything will be okay.